Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to make more money in your life, no matter what level you're at, and it just keeps getting away from you, then do we have the Secret to Attracting Money show for you. Today I'll be talking with Joe Vitale, multi-millionaire, best-selling author, a star on The Secret, and the author of a special read called The Secret to Attracting Money. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about why your understanding of money is all wrong, that's right, all wrong, and what you can do to create a money mindset. That, plus we'll talk about chasing monkeys, Rolls-Royce masterminds, Chuck E. Cheese and Superman, Fitteritas and margaritas, what on earth is ode a liquid dignum, and what in the world angry squirrels have to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Joe. Are you ready to shine?
I am more than ready. I already got my batteries recharged. I'm all set to do it. Let's rock and roll.
Woohoo! All right. Speaking of rock and roll, well, actually, how did you end up homeless and on the streets, Joe?
Oh, great. You want to go all the way back to that, huh? You know how to start a party. How did I end up homeless? Well, I ended up homeless because I was chasing a dream.
Yep.
I was doing it by myself.
Yep.
And I believed in a couple of people who ended up taking the little money I had, running off with it, declaring bankruptcy, and the owner of that company committed suicide. Back then, which was in the 1970s, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of the recourses we take for granted today. Mm-hmm. And I was left penniless, without options that I was aware of, and alone. And so because of what I thought was a wise strategy and some people that were on the dark side, I ended up homeless.
So let's fast forward from there. I want to talk about the mindset of money. What would you say is the number one way that people are thinking wrong about money, and were you doing it at the time?
I absolutely was doing it at the time, but of course did not know I was doing it at the time. Like everybody else, I was unconscious of my own beliefs, and I think that's part of what's going on with the world at large today. I say there's two reasons why people don't have money.
Yeah.
Two reasons why they struggle with money. Two reasons why they find it difficult to attract it, earn it, keep it, save it, invest it, or do whatever they want to do with money. Two key reasons. The very first reason is they don't like money. They think money's evil. They think money's bad. They think money corrupts. And so if they think money is bad, they're not going to want something bad in their life, or they'll allow it to come in for a short period of time and then they'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
So they will always struggle with money. So the first reason is they think money's bad. The second reason is they think they're bad. Their self-esteem, their opinion of themselves is that they're lacking in some way, shape, or form, or they're not good enough. So if they're not good enough to have good things, and money is considered to be a bad thing that could actually corrupt you, they're going to keep it away. Those are the two biggies. And yes, I believed them unconsciously way back in the 1970s too.
Thank you. So unconsciously, if we're going to go to the second one first, you weren't feeling, and as many, all of us, I'm going to argue just about all of us, if we don't have anything in the bank, it historically has been very hard to feel we're a good person based on what we've been indoctrinated in, isn't it?
Yes, and you pointed it out. You said it well right there, because we've been indoctrinated. We have been programmed innocently by people who were already programmed innocently, and we downloaded their beliefs about money. We downloaded their beliefs about deservingness. And so, yes, when we look around, like when I was homeless or in poverty, and we don't see the money, we immediately conclude we're lacking. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not talented enough. We're not lucky enough, that we are in fill in the blank, not enough. And so the self-esteem, the self-image, all of that sense of worth and value isn't there. And as a result of it, it's a downward spiral, because we end up feeling even worse.
Yeah.
Because we don't have what we think we want, which was what started the lack in the first place. So there's a lot of awakening that needs to be done.
Thank you. And we're going to dive into that today. I'm thinking of ignoring or moving past. We'll call it moving above, moving up. There we go. Rising up above your inner Google, because your inner Google is going to give you exactly what you're looking for. So if you feel you're worthless and you want to become a millionaire, it's only going to give you more reasons to prove that you're worthless. So how do we get an up mindset from there?
Well, it begins with awareness. And it begins with something like this show. That's why what you're doing is so valuable to everybody. It can bring the knowledge, the wisdom, the reflection that, hey, wait a minute, maybe I have beliefs about money. Maybe I have beliefs about myself. And if I do, maybe I can become aware of them and maybe I can start to change them. So for me, the very first level is awareness. This is why I write books like the new one that you just mentioned, The Secret to Attracting Money. It's to bring this knowledge, this wisdom, this awakening to people. Because once they have that awakening, they can look around and begin to find out what their beliefs are. One great thing to do is just look around and say, okay, I don't seem to have the money I would like to have. What possibly could be a belief to create this experience of lack? And whatever the beliefs are, let them come up, write them down, and then you can look at them, then you can question them, then you can dissect them. But for me, it all begins with an awakening, with awareness.
Thank you, Joe. I just recently had on a woman who's she's written a course in financial miracles, and we talked about love over fear, Barbara Hewson. And what you've got me thinking is, if we dare to become aware, if we look around our circumstances and say, what is a limiting belief that is causing this? How do we then not play the game of picking on ourselves for saying, if I cause this, I'm really a doot-doot, for lack of another term?
That's a great insight, because all of that does is increase the length of time we feel miserable. Mm-hmm. It does not create an awakening. In fact, the awakening comes from realizing that self-judgment, that blame, that sense of guilt, that whipping post of ourselves is actually what created the lack and limitation and poor self-esteem to begin with. So when we realize, oh, it's my beliefs that have created my reality, there might be a moment where you go, oh man, I must have been pretty dumb to think that. But then you have to go one step beyond it and go, you didn't have the consciousness to know if it was wise or dumb. It was a belief you downloaded, most likely from your parents, but it could have been from the culture, from the media, from the government, from the country itself that you're in. And so you did not have much to do with it. And when you realize I didn't have much to do with it, then you can let yourself off the hook. And you can go, well, I didn't really know I had that belief. When I was homeless, I did not know that my beliefs were creating my homelessness. I didn't know it. And so when I began to realize my beliefs were creating my reality, it was more of an empowering thought. It was more along the lines of, if my beliefs are doing this, what can new beliefs do to create a much yummier life? Woo! And I'm in that direction. So yes, that's what I would say for everybody that's in your audience, is that you want to look at the idea that this is empowering. This isn't being used for self-punishment. This is used for self-awakening.
Thank you. And it's got me thinking that the term that's coming to mind is, isn't this cool? And I'm not making light of the situation, but if you can look around you and realize that everything is a reflection of the past, not a reflection of who you are today, and think of like a Joseph Campbell arc. And if you watched a movie and you saw where everything, 20 minutes before the end, inevitably, dark night of the soul, everything's gone bad, and you go, isn't this cool? Because you know what's coming now.
That's I love that image, and that is such a great reminder. I have a friend, Mandy Evans, who's been my counselor, therapist, coach since 1985. Wow. She's known me that long, and she often says, confusion and darkness is that wonderful state right before clarity. And I've always loved that, because it's just a reminder that when you go through this dark night of the soul, when you go through whatever the drama happens to be, when you go through whatever looks like the breakdown, what's right on the other side of it is the breakthrough. And if you can, like you just so beautifully did, remind ourselves that, okay, I'm in this cloudy spot right now, but what that means is the sun's coming out. The sun's coming out maybe tomorrow or later tonight or this morning or whatever it happens to be. So it's a great reminder.
Thank you. I want to dive into the law of attraction, what's missing, the subconscious side. But before we do that, there's a good story that you have that shares this toward the end of this book about an angry squirrel.
Right. Yeah, I had fun writing that in the new book. An angry squirrel. Yeah, the house I was living in at the time was in the country. And in the country, you've got all kind of animals from fox to deer to coyote and everything else. But there were some squirrels that wanted to move in.
Yeah.
And there was one squirrel in particular who had eaten and torn and ripped a hole in the side of the house, and he opened it up enough to create an apartment for himself. I mean, he hooked up a TV, he hooked into my satellite system, and I didn't want him there. He wasn't paying rent. So I changed his mind, got him to come out, and I walled up that little area, and I put a home up for him. I had done a bunch of research, and I found out that squirrels will live in used tires. And so I hung a used tire in the trees. Yeah. Which was not an easy thing to do. And that's a whole nother story. But the squirrel didn't see the good. He saw that I evicted him. And he was upset. He was angry. He was swearing at me. He would write graffiti on the side of the house. He was doing all kind of preposterous things and unnecessary. Yeah, throwing nuts, the whole thing. Until finally, one day, he had his awakening. And his awakening is when he finally turned away from my house, and right behind him in the tree was this beautiful home. And when he moved into the home, he started to get a little pot belly on him, because life was a lot easier for him now. He didn't have to work as hard. I actually put a little food for him. And he realized, oh, you were trying to show me a better way. But he was so hanging on to what he thought he wanted, what he thought he needed, and what he thought was possible. When he let go, there was a whole lot of much more available to him.
Woohoo! That gets me to the crux of the law of attraction and holding on too tight. What does that mean? And what is that missing element in the law of attraction?
Yeah, the law of attraction, it's so wonderful that people know about the law of attraction now. But the sad thing is they only know the superficial level of it. Most people have heard that if they think it, they can probably create it. And that is such a kindergarten, first grade, top level view of something that has a lot of depth to it. And so, first of all, it's not just what you think. We all know that. We're all thinking different things that don't happen. Yeah. We're thinking, I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to get this date. I'm going to get this car. And none of it happens. And you're going, well, the law of attraction must not work. The reality is the law of attraction is working, but it's working on your subconscious beliefs. The beliefs that you keep having, especially the ones that you add emotion to, are the ones that get created. This is why it's so important to find out, what do we believe? What are we repeatedly, consistently fueling within ourselves on the unconscious, subconscious level? Because that's what's being created. This is also why when we go to change beliefs, we don't want to just fool around with the conscious mind and the beliefs that are there. We need to do the deeper work. I say that we have intentions. Intentions are what we consciously declare. We're talking about money on this show, so people might have the intention. I intend to have more money from my business, from an inheritance, from winning something, but I intend to attract more money. Great. But if subconsciously they think money is the root of all evil, they're not going to attract money. Or if they do, they're going to get rid of it like this, which is why so many people win the lottery and 1 to 3 years later, they're broke. They did not acquire the mindset to allow that money to be there. And the subconscious programming saying that money is bad or money is evil caused them to get rid of it. They didn't get rid of it by saying to themselves, oh, I have to get rid of all this money. They were glad to get the money, but they got rid of it in a self-sabotage, unconscious kind of way. So the law of attraction is real, but there's so much more depth to it. We need to understand that it is emotion, that it is the subconscious beliefs. And if we want to create any change, we have to change those subconscious beliefs.
Thank you. So let's dive into the subconscious beliefs. Let's play for a minute here and say that you won all the money in the world. But you believe that's a lot of money. More than you can spend in lifetime after lifetime. In fact, no matter how much you give away, it's coming back tenfold. And you share a story about that actually in the book.
Yes.
How do we then go, all right, I've heard in my subconscious that money is the root of all evil. I better get busy on this.
Right. Well, the very first thing we want to do is get rid of that belief. So let me help everybody that's watching and listening right now. I've been all over the world. I've been in countries that were surprising for me to be in. The last one I went in was Iran. So I was in Iran, and they had this belief. I was in Russia before that. They had this belief. I was in the Ukraine before that. They had this belief. I was in Poland. I was in Italy. I was in all these countries. They all have the same belief. It's a belief that says money is the root of all evil. They all have it. And so what do we do about it? The first thing is to realize that sentence is a fragment of a longer sentence.
Yes.
The longer sentence says, the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, that sounds a little bit better. Then you have to look at the fact that the healthy, spiritually well-adjusted people who are handling money, the last time you and I talked, we were talking about my book at the time called The Awakened Millionaire.
Yes.
The Awakened Millionaire is at peace with money and spirituality. They're actually two sides of the same coin. So when we realize that you can appreciate money, not necessarily love money, you have now walked away from that limiting belief. The belief that says the love of money is the root of all evil. Don't love money. Use money. Appreciate money. Leverage money. One of my favorite quotes is from Arnold Patton. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had said it. It's the definition of money. He said, the sole purpose of money is to express appreciation. The sole purpose of money is to express appreciation. There's no love there for money. There's no hate there for money. There's appreciation for money. When we change our mindset about money being evil and we think money is a tool for fulfilling your dreams, money is a tool for good, money is a spiritual force, money enables you to live your life mission, money enables you to take care of the people and the causes you believe in. When you move into that, then you can win the lottery, you can have money descend on you, and you'll be able to leverage it because it's not about the frickin' money. The money is just the tool. That's it.
I'm gonna riff off of this, and I'm gonna say when we begin to appreciate our money begins to appreciate.
Exactly. And that's the beautiful way to put it right there. It is all about freeing ourselves from these judgments. And again, we downloaded this information from birth, and our parents had it. I would often ask people, were your parents Mr. and Mrs. Buddha? Were they enlightened? And everybody, they laugh. It's like, no, they weren't enlightened. They had beliefs about money. They had beliefs about deservingness. They had beliefs about relationships. They had beliefs about health. You downloaded their beliefs. And until a moment like now, those beliefs have been operating. Now is the awakening. Now is the breakthrough. Now is when people start to realize, oh, wait a minute, money maybe is actually a good tool and a good thing to have. You know, you can fulfill so many missions with it. It's actually a force for good.
Thank you. And that is a woohoo. So, as a force for good, want to talk about plugging in a new money mindset today. What does it mean to have an entrepreneurial mindset? In fact, you say an entrepreneurial mindset for success combined with a spiritual mindset for success is the secret to attracting money beyond all comprehension.
It really is. You know, one of the things that people do wrong, and I certainly did this for the longest time, is to think money can only come to you in one way.
Yeah.
You have this tunnel approach to receiving money. And for me, for the longest time, I wanted to be an author. I wanted to write books. And I thought, well, that's the only way money's going to come to me is I'll write a book. And if it does anything, I'll get some money from the book. And boy, is that limited tunnel thinking. And I would hear over and over again as I was working with different books and different teachers that money comes from this giant pie. And the pie has all kind of avenues and all kind of slices. It's not just one road in, called books, in my case. There's actually a lot of different roads. And when I take the blinders off, I start to see other possibilities. Well, one of the roles that I think has the most blinders taken down is the role of an entrepreneur. Because an entrepreneur looks for problems and complaints because those are opportunities. I was on Donnie Deutsch's television show years ago when he had it on CNBC. It was called The Big Idea, and I loved that show. Oh, I was so intrigued, so inspired, and so proud to be on it. And one of the things Donnie would say is, love complaints. Whenever you hear a complaint, it's an opportunity for a product or service. So if you're standing in line somewhere or you're complaining about something, note what you're complaining about and then ask yourself, is there a way for you to resolve it? Or if you're out somewhere and you hear other people complaining, pay attention to what they're complaining about, because if you can resolve it, there's a product or service. So an entrepreneur sees possibilities. The whole world becomes this golden opportunity with oysters everywhere and diamonds everywhere. You just have to learn to see that it's not really a complaint. It's actually a veiled product or service that you might be able to bring into being. And when you do, what are we doing? We're serving people. We're serving people with something they were already complaining about. If they were truly complaining and you resolved it, you have just done a spiritually good deed. I'm thinking of Uber. Uber right now, the two guys who invented it were trying to get a cab after a meeting. And they couldn't get one. They were like everybody else who called for a cab, a decade or so ago. And we'd wait. Maybe the cab would show up, or maybe you stood in the rain, or maybe, they took you to the wrong place. They thought, well, there needs to be a better service. They were complaining about it. It needs to be something they can do on their phone. And they ended up creating a network, creating an app, creating a service that virtually everybody has used repeatedly. It also gave work to people that needed work. Many of the Uber drivers I met said they absolutely loved their job because they love driving. They get to meet unusual people, new people. They go to unusual places in the very city that they grew up in, and they get paid to do it. So this is all part of when you start expanding your mind to allow money to come from other avenues, and you also realize this is a spiritual-based service that you're doing for the world. Now there's just green lights and win-win-wins all over the place, and your heart opens up because you realize, look at what I'm doing, look at the difference I'm making, and I get paid to do it. How cool is this?
Thank you. And that brings up two key points. First off, we're talking at a time that the world, at least this country, seems to be going back into a lockdown. Now, maybe things will change for the positive. I put that in quotes next year, because if we have this entrepreneurial mindset, maybe what we're seeing, and I'm not making light of things at all, but what we're seeing is there is incredible opportunity to help others and to help ourselves in the family, not despite, but because of this.
Yes. I totally agree. Well, I've been going on a lot of different shows, and I've been saying that the pandemic and COVID and all of this and lockdowns around the world is actually a divine conspiracy, a divine conspiracy. I see it as a good thing. Now, you got to remember that for me, this wiped out my biggest income. Traveling, going on stage, speaking engagements, all of that shut down. And so I should or could be looking at this as something that is dark or unpleasant or something I complain about. But instead, I'm going, how cool is this? Everybody who's ever said, I wish I had the time to learn a language, to open an online business, to learn how to play a musical instrument, you're at home and you have the internet. We have, there was a pandemic 100 and some years ago. There was no Facebook, there was no online world, and it was a far more difficult time. Today, we can stay connected because of all the online bells and whistles we have. We can still learn because look what you and I are doing. You're in one place somewhere, and I'm in another place in the country, and we're able to connect online thanks to Skype, thanks to Zoom. And even the events that were being canceled for me, we're doing them online. I don't have to even leave the house. I did one in Milan recently. It was supposed to be a live in-person event. Because of COVID, they canceled it, but they also put it online. Everybody was in the comfort of their home, including me. So I still did it. I'm telling people, we've been hearing, go inside. Now, go inside for the masses means go back in your house or your apartment or your duplex and stay there. Go inside to me means go inside. Go inside yourself. This is your time to meditate. This is your time to contemplate. This is your time to reflect. This is your time to originate some ideas, products, services. And we've been talking about an entrepreneur. I swear, anybody, any place can open a business online. Whatever it is that you already have as a skill, your education, your experience, something you've done in the past can be turned into a digital product of one sort or another. And if for some reason you really felt like, I don't really have anything I can turn into a digital product, you can find things that you are in love with that already exist that are for sale, and you can be an affiliate for them. And through your own word of mouth or virtual word of mouth, you can be making money selling somebody else's product. Now, I know there's layers to understanding all of this, but because Google is here and YouTube is here, whatever it is that you want to know about opening business online is possible. And if you really want to stay at home and meditate, there are all kinds of information on the different ways to meditate. I think that what's going on is actually fantastic. I'm not dismissing health concerns and people that have been ill. We have to take care of everybody. We have to take the precautions. But I'm saying there is a very positive side to all of this. And I really think the divine sent us to our room. It's kind of a timeout. It's like, you know what, you guys have been all driving into the ditch and driving into walls, so to speak. So we're creating a timeout. Go to your room, go inside, reconnect, get quiet, listen to what I call the great something, what Joseph Campbell called the great mystery. Listen to God, the divine, whatever you want to call it, and see what's there for you. It's a good time.
I love it. And speaking of this good time, people have time now to go inside. People have time to research, to look at all of these pieces. However, we get to help them past one key component, which is a belief in oneself. Oh yeah, Joe is saying that. Michael's saying it. They're both doing it. But look at me. I don't have the blah, blah, blah. It's the same as somebody who says, well, you come up to them and you're doing great and you've got your Rolls Royce and they're going, yeah, but I'm just punching the clock. How could I possibly do that?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because we need to remind everybody of where both you and I have come from. You've already mentioned about homelessness for me. So going through homelessness means that I had a start that's probably less than where everybody else is at right now as they're watching or listening to this. I was in poverty for 10 years. I remember working for an oil company. I made a little video for Instagram the other day, and I was reminded of this. And I was working for an oil company in the 1980s, I think it was. And over the lunch hour, I would sit there and write. I was trying to write my first book. And I remember one executive was walking by, saw me at the typewriter, no computer, a typewriter. And she told the other executive, "You think she's going to be a writer?" And it was very dismissive. It was very critical. It wasn't even subtle. I could hear it. I mean, they're talking about me and I'm right there. And I remember thinking, there's no evidence I'm going to be a success. None. There's nobody around me saying it. There is nobody encouraging me. There's no outward sign saying, hey, Joe, if you write the book, we're going to publish it, we're going to buy it, we're going to print it, blah, blah, blah. There's no psychic that's saying, hey, if you keep at it, in 20 years, you're going to get some sort of name for yourself. There's nothing. There's nothing. At the most, and it wasn't even all that strong, was my own belief in me. And that's where we all start. Even when the internet came along and I was one of the internet pioneers and we all started learning about the value of having an email list, my email list began with nothing on it. There was nobody. There was nothing. I put my own name on my email list so I would have one subscriber. And then I started thinking, well, I know my dad at the time. I'll put his name on it. He didn't even have email. So the whole point of this is we all start at ground zero. We all do. And it's the matter of we have to believe in ourselves first. As you start to find a few people that are friends or can believe in you, or you can put a mastermind together of people who support each other, you can elevate everything and keep it going and start to get a momentum. But Michael, we got to remind everybody, you and I have, this is our duty, is that we all start with the blank slate. We don't have any sort of one up on anybody. We all start with the struggle and go through it to get to the success.
Thank you. Thank you. It's making me think of Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck, who talks about a growth mindset. Because if we take the mindset of a rigid mindset, I have this, I don't have that. I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. We're stuck. If we take a mindset that I'm going to get over, around, through, under, but I will find this, and heck, I'm locked down. All I've got is time to figure this out. How does it get any better than this? You will figure it out.
I'm a great fan of her books, and I recommend everybody read her work. And you are absolutely right. It's coming from the mindset that I think there's a couple operating beliefs in me, and I think it comprises part of my mindset. And part of it is there's always a way. I may not know the way. I may have to create the way. I may have to find somebody else who already did it or discover a way, but there's always a way. And so I back off and say, okay, what's my dream? I want to dream big. And then the next level of that, after I've answered the question, what do I want, is how do I do it? And the correct answer is, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm saying this for all the people who are going, well, I really want to write my own book, or I want to open my own show, or I want to have an online bakery, or whatever it happens to be. And they're sitting there going, well, I don't know how to do it. None of us do. None of us do. We make it up as we go. I quote Theodore Roosevelt a lot because he said, do what you can with what you have right where you are. And I always quote Steve Jobs, I think it's in the book too, where he says you cannot connect the dots looking forward to get to where you want to go. Once you've gotten there, you can turn back and go, oh, that dot led to this dot, led to this dot. You can connect all the dots then. So I don't want people to sit there and go, I don't know how to do this. Nobody knows how to do this, but you usually know the first baby step. Take the first baby step, and then voila, the lights come on. You can see the next step, but you don't see the next step until you take the first baby step. And step by step, you can make the journey. So we can all do it. Anybody can do it.
Woohoo! Years ago, I was at a concert, a surprise concert, an opening of a Hard Rock Cafe with Bruce Willis playing the blues and jamming. And oh my God, was he good. And I'm going, this guy maybe had some music growing up, but he probably started from scratch himself. And one could say, yeah, but he had millions of dollars to throw at it. No, he had to begin somewhere. You, I'm guessing, had no modicum or ability in music when you started. And how many albums do you have out now?
Oh, thanks for saying that. I have, I think, 16 albums and a bunch of singles that are out at this point. I'm flattered and shocked, first, because you mentioned Bruce Willis. I'm a huge Bruce Willis fan, and he's multi-talented, but like everybody else, he had to learn, and much like what you're talking about. I'm 67 now, and when I was 60, I looked at my bucket list and said, what do I want to do? And one was be a musician, and I didn't know how. And so I was with the same struggle just about anybody does or has when they decide that they want to do something big. Yeah. And then the next thing that happened to me was fear. I thought, what if I really suck? I have no musical experience. I have no musical training. I played a little harmonica. I had a couple of guitars, but didn't really know what I was doing. Didn't know how to write songs. Didn't know how to sing any songs. Didn't have a band. I've been in the studio a lot as a speaker, but not as a singer. And I almost didn't go for my dream. I almost didn't. And I'm telling you this, Michael. So for the people that are listening and they're thinking, well, I really want to do blah, blah, blah. But they're listening to the voice of doubt in their head that's saying, oh, you're too old, or you're too young, or you're too whatever. I'm pointing out that me, when I was 60, with all of the success, all of the experience, all of what I know about the law of attraction, mind power, psychology, self-sabotage, self-illusion, all of that, I was falling into that trap. Get all caught up and all excited about it. But I also learned how to get past it. And as a result, made about 15 albums in around 5 years, 16 or 17 albums to date.
Woohoo! It makes me think of the power of education. And I'm not saying you have to take an expensive online course or do anything of the sort. Grab a book, watch a video. I have seen some of the most amazing ukulele players out there who've gone online and hacked their ukulele skills. You can take the knowledge that's around you. It's more, we'll use that term, democratic than ever, and just start there. Like with a mindset for becoming a millionaire, read a book of somebody who's become a millionaire.
Sounds so obvious when you say it. I want to say two things about that. One is, during the process of me recording different music, at one point my producer was inspired to play a band called Morphine. Yeah. And the band Morphine, the heavy instrument in it is a baritone saxophone. Mm-hmm. And I heard the baritone saxophone for, I think, the first time in my life. And I went, oh my God, what is that? Yeah. It was moving energy, and it was captivating me, and it was hypnotic. Well, this is the way I work. I got intrigued. Mm-hmm. I found a vintage baritone saxophone, bought it, didn't know how to play it, never held one, but it arrives and I look at it and open the case. It's like, it's beautiful. What do you do? So then I go on YouTube and it's like, how do you put the reed on the mouthpiece on a saxophone? Yeah. And there's somebody who walked me through it, and it was better than having a tutor because they held up the little reed and they held up everything and they walked me through the whole thing. Long story short is I recorded an album of baritone saxophone music played by me. And I learned how by YouTube videos. I had one lesson real time with a physical person, but I found that I was learning more with the YouTube videos. So there you go.
I love it. I've started recently in my head learning to play drums. In my head, because what I'm doing is in between reading and teaching and stuff, I go on YouTube and I've learned how you hold the stick, the basic tapping motions now. And what's happening is, in fact, I'm going to step back from it. I dated a girl for 6.5 years who was a pro rodeo athlete. She went to med school. She had to stop riding while she was in med school. But you would see her walking to class or doing anything, and she would be dallying. She'd be throwing out the rope, pulling it, and I'm a huge animal guy, so I'm not saying anything about doing anything to animals here, but she would throw the rope, pull it in, and have success with it, and then she'd be riding barrels in her mind's eye. And she got out of school with no training and won a world championship.
Wow, I applaud that. You demonstrated right there so many different things that we all can do. The power of using our mind to do our rehearsal, because our mind, when we're doing the rehearsal and we're really getting into it vividly, and especially if we add emotion to it, is getting our body actually activate muscle memory. It's working from here down. So we don't always have to be on the horse, so to speak, or doing the lasso, so to speak, to actually have that training. The vividness of the visualization can actually help you do that as well. And there's plenty of science behind that.
Since we're speaking of vividness, Let's talk about Nevillizing. This is your term, and we had a Neville Goddard expert, Mitch Horowitz, on the show just a couple days ago. Let's talk about Nevillizing your goal as if you've already achieved it.
I'm a huge fan of Neville Goddard. Most people know him as just Neville. I've collected his books. I have a lot of autographs of his work. I have LPs that he recorded. He has 2 different albums that he did in his lifetime. And the big thing with Neville is that he went beyond visualization. He wanted you not just to imagine that you're going to have money in the future, you're going to have the car, the house, or the job, whatever it happens to be. He wanted you to embody it now, to pretend that it already came true, that you're already wealthy, that you already live in the mansion, that you already drive the sports car, the Rolls Royce, or whatever the car is for you. You're not visualizing it as off in the distance, which is still powerful. Visualization does work. But Nevillizing is when you feel it real.
Yes.
I actually recorded a song with Grammy-winning singer Ruthie Foster called Feel It Real. And the whole idea is the more you can feel that you already have what you want, the more it will become real. You feel it real. Neville said at one point, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. What does that mean? Your intention is your wish. We're talking about money here, so we're going to assume people want more money. That's your wish. Assume that your wish has already been fulfilled. Instead of thinking, boy, it'd be great to have more money by Friday or next month, you go, I got the money yesterday. I got it yesterday, and oh, God, it feels good. And you're assuming the feeling of the wish completed, fulfilled. He also said, assumption hardens into fact. Assumption hardens into fact. And what that means is if you're embodying that you already have the money, you're already assuming that you're this awakened millionaire, to use the title of one of my other books, or you're learning about this from the new book, The Secret to Attracting Money. That assumption will harden into third dimensional reality.
Let's talk about.
Is this cool or what?
This is the woohoo! It's so cool. And there's a former Californian who just became a Texan, so going down in your neck of the woods, by the name of Elon Musk. And Elon Musk is known for saying some outrageous statements, but he says them over and over and over and over again. And guess what? They become fact.
They become real. They become fact. Yeah, I actually made a little video earlier today, and I have a prop. It just happens to be handy.
Perfect.
And the video said, whatever you say after these words, I am, is what you will become. Most of us have those 90,000 thoughts of negativity repeating in our heads all day long. But if we start saying things like, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am happy, we start to move in that direction. And one of the reasons why, and I write about it in the book, is the idea that your brain doesn't know the difference. This is why Neville was so powerful. Your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and the imagination. And for proof, think back to the last time anybody had a bad dream or a nightmare. You wake up and you're scared or you're sweating. And it's like, it wasn't real. What the hell happened? Your brain thought it was real. So you can kind of do this as a brain hack or a manifestation technique. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The brain will go about making it real. Feel it real. Long live the man who's no longer alive, Neville.
Woohoo! So on that note, I like to think about costumes and masks. You have a term called emulate the successful. And you talk actually about a dear friend of yours, Gene Landrum, who had Chuck E. Cheese and talks about Superman syndrome because, and we had Amy Cuddy on the show years ago talking about Wonder Woman pose. The more we put on that costume of somebody that we want to emulate, of somebody successful, of Superman or Superwoman, what happens to us?
We transform ourselves. We unleash our own latent superpowers. Most of us are caught with the identity that we are portraying to the world. And we don't realize that underneath is Superman or Superwoman. Gene Landrum had written a book called The Superman Syndrome. He's written lots of books, but that's one of my favorites because he was basically saying if you could pretend that you're secretly Superman or secretly Superwoman, nobody else knows it. Maybe you and I know it, but that's it. And there's a big S on your chest. The more you can tune into that, the more you will release and unleash powers that are waiting to be freed. That all of those latent abilities are actually there. They're actually waiting. It's interesting that you had mentioned Bruce Willis earlier. When I went to perform on stage with my band of legends, it was a terrifying thought and exciting because I'd been on stage numerous times for decades as a speaker. But being on stage as a singer is a completely different experience. Being on stage as the lead singer, playing the guitar with your band is also pretty intimidating. It's exciting, but it's intimidating. Yeah. And so when I was doing my visualization and my Nevillizing, I'd pretend I was Bruce Willis. I actually had found there's a YouTube video where he's singing Devil Woman. Mm-hmm. Devil Woman, he's playing harmonica and singing. Oh, man, he nails it. He owns that stage. He's got charisma. And I'd watch it, and I would pretend I was him. I pretend that I could enter his body, like astrally possess it, to see what he might be feeling. And then as I would imagine that I actually performed on stage, when I Nevillized it, I was, the Joe Vitale version of Bruce Willis, but I was taking those Superman qualities. That's how I was using the Superman essence. So you mentioned Elon Musk, or we can talk about Richard Branson, J. Paul Getty. We can talk about Andrew Carnegie. We can take some of the wealthiest people from history and just try to role play what might they be thinking? What might they do today? I wrote a book on P.T. Barnum. There's a customer born every minute. He created an empire. We still know his name today, even though he died in 1891. I have taken on elements of him as a kind of my Superman when it comes to marketing, when it comes to being more of an outrageous publicist. So all of this is to say we have more power and ability, talents than we ever thought possible. And if we just pretend with a little bit of an acting technique that we are secretly, we're Clark Kent or Clarkette Kent, and secretly we're Superman or Superwoman, we can free those inner powers.
Woohoo! When you talk about P.T. Barnum, people have got him wrong. What was his mission?
His mission was to make people happy. He said there was the noblest art in the world was to make children and their parents happy. People mistake they will say, if they know Barnum at all, they'll say, he said there's a sucker born every minute. Truth is, he never said it, he never wrote it, never thought it. There was a competitor during that time in the 1800s who said it, and people attributed it to Barnum, but Barnum wasn't afraid of publicity. He thought all publicity just promoted his name, and if his name was out there, when he had the Barnum Museum, they'd go to the museum because they knew Barnum's name. When he had the circus, they'd go to Barnum Circus because they knew Barnum's name. But no, he respected people. He was actually a very spiritual person. I actually ended up at his gravesite, and it took a while to find because there's a little tiny marker, a little concrete marker from 1891. But the words on it said everything. It said, and this was his motto, not my will, but thine be done.
How does it get any more powerful than that? Couple last questions, Joe, and then I need to know where to send people to get your book. What does creating monkeys and chasing them down the street have to do with anything?
Well, as I remember in my book, I was talking about the monkeys of your mind. Yes. I don't think I was talking about something else. The monkeys of your mind. We have all those 90,000 thoughts that are going on here. And if we get latched on to any of them, we've just started playing with monkeys. And those monkeys will chase us up trees. They'll chase us down the street. We'll get caught up in the monkey warfare, and then we'll forget who we are. And what I like to remind people is we're not the monkey. We're not the monkey. We're not our thoughts. I have another book called The Awakening Course, which really goes into the idea that you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. you're the witness to all of it. And there's great freedom when you break from the monkeys.
Woohoo! And I have an expression to take and put a monkey in the wheel. Use your thoughts and interrupt. Get a pattern interrupt to whatever is going on so that you can step back and go, wait a second. Am I awake? Am I conscious? Am I consciously choosing each step right now?
Excellent. Yeah, I applaud that.
Thank you. What does aude aliquid dignum have to do with anything?
It's one of my favorite Latin phrases. I was going to say it was the Latin phrase, but I'm wearing a shirt that says memento vivere. Memento vivere actually means live now. Live now. Past is gone, future isn't here yet. And aude aliquid dignum means dare something worthy. Dare something worthy. That's my challenge to everybody. Dare something worthy.
And I'm going to add to that challenge, scare yourself silly. Because if you're not scaring yourself silly, you're not daring something worthy.
Worthy. Excellent.
Where can people go, Joe, to find your beautiful books and to find out more?
I just go to Amazon. Type in my name, Joe Vitale. I've got a lot of books there. The one we've been referring to is brand new. It's called The Secret to Attracting Money. So type in The Secret to Attracting Money. It's got to come up as a book, Kindle book, audio version of the book is all there. And my other books that we've referenced. I would just say go to Amazon and have fun.
Thank you. What are you working on now or most excited about now?
I'm working on a healing course, and I'm going to be creating a product because the last 2 years have been spent with me in a pretty devastating divorce. And I know people have gone through those kind of experiences. And so I want to create something to help them have light as they go through what could be a very dark time.
Awesome. I'm so sorry, but I like going right back to the beginning. I don't know if you can say, How cool is this? But something really, really special will come out of it.
It already is. The sun has risen.
Woohoo! Any last words of wisdom you want to share with people today, Joe? And thank you so, so much.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I love visiting with you. I always love the interviews and the energy and so forth. I would just say Godspeed to everybody and always focus on gratitude. No matter what's going on, there's always something right now to be grateful for. If only the fact that you got air, your body is keeping you alive, you just got to be inspired by this guy right here. Be grateful. Gratitude will expand. Gratitude will bring more miracles to you. And gratitude just feels plain great to begin with.
And on that note, thank you, Joe. And thank you to everyone, and thank you to the universe. There is no such thing as too much thank you. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the secret to attracting money, and begin attracting money into your life today, and shine bright. Woohoo! There are fun interviews, and then there are fun interviews like this one with Joe Vitale on how you can change your mindset for wealth and making money. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I had so much fun. To check out more high-energy, fun interviews, click here, subscribe below. Be sure to click on that bell icon to be notified of upcoming shows, YouTube premieres, live events with me. Share with everyone you can think of to help bring their mindset up and help them make more money as well. And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Love you guys.